Hey, it's Dan Morales, America's Mortgage Man. It is episode number 151, and we are off and running into the year 2020. And for many of you, the beginning of the year kind of strikes a, almost kind of like a finish line, right? Like I don't even want to say a finish line as much as a starting line. You're thinking about getting ready to go buy a house and wondering what all goes into it. Where do I start? I'm just overwhelmed. There's so much information out there, and I'm just confused, right? Well, there's a lot of information out there, and at the end of last week's podcast, I talked about, trying to vet your realtor to make sure you have a really good seasoned realtor that you're working with, right? Now, we could do an episode talking about how to vet your mortgage lender, but in all honesty, you could just make that process really easy on yourself and work with me. I've done this since 1991, highly successful at it, and if you look at our reviews, you'll see that that is the case there as well too. We take a lot of pride in just working hard to make sure we service our clients, educate them, and make sure that they get across the finish line with the best and most favorable outcome when it's all said and done. I can tell you guys, the more information that I consume on the internet, the more information that you get a feeling that it's just designed to kind of mislead you. It's designed to try to conceal the pertinent facts or the pertinent details that are really the ones that are most important, right? Because so often people don't know how to really understand the mortgage process and or the real estate process, right? So it's really important that you have not only a rock solid, really good realtor to represent you, but that you're represented from a really good rock solid lender like myself. So anyways, talking about, the end of last week, what I talked about is an experience I had with HomeLight, right? You'll see HomeLight is one of those websites that, they advertise a lot online, and, they talk about if you're going to sell a house, you're going to buy a house, they'll help you find, the best agent who will sell it for the most with the highest reviews and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, being the inquisitive person I am, I'm like, gosh, I really need to check this out. I'm just curious who they would recommend locally in my area, right? So I went through and I kind of filled out the form. Well, unlike the website, I never got to a website where I could see who sold what and what they sold it for, and all these neat graphics that I saw on the TV commercial. I didn't see any of that. What I did get is I did get a phone call almost immediately, right? And I got a series of follow-up emails. And, I didn't want to give them a bunch of information because you see what companies like HomeLight are, companies like LendingTree, companies like Zillow, Trulia, even Realtor.com. A lot of these companies, what they are is they're almost like a lead generation site, okay? Meaning that, if you go to Zillow and you look for information on Zillow's website, what Zillow is going to do is they're going to capture your information and they're going to sell it to the highest bidder, okay? Now, the highest bidder may or may not be the best realtor to best serve your needs. Oftentimes it isn't, because a lot of times, some of the realtors that spend the most money on Zillow are not necessarily the best agents in an individual marketplace, as much as they just try to buy that business by paying Zillow the most money for it and getting those leads. And then it's just a numbers game, right? If I can get 100 people, 100 leads, and if I can convert a certain portion of those leads and I can turn them into money, then, did I have enough of a return in my investment to make it worthwhile? Okay. I kind of laugh because in the mortgage business, we get the same thing. We get all these lead sellers, right? They want to sell you leads, and you see all kinds of them out there. Whether it's Bank Rate, that has stuff out there, or some of these other websites where they go through and they try to steer you to a specific mortgage company, or they try to give the appearance as though they are helping you shop for the best rate and the best outcome. Well, the best rate and best outcome, isn't always the lowest rate, right? Especially depending on what your individual circumstances are and so on. Now, we've talked about that a million times in episodes that have passed, so I don't need to necessarily go back and relive that, as much as if you are out there and you're looking for information on buying a house and so on, I just need to warn you that there is a lot of bad, misleading information out there. It's super frustrating for, someone like me who's done this as long as I have. I'm going on year 29 here. It's super frustrating because we go through, we know the information that's being put out there is wrong, or it's misleading or slanted in such a way to kind of, not necessarily give you the truth. So when you see that stuff, it's super frustrating, and it's super frustrating when I get to kind of re-educate clients on the truth of what really happens. So, a lot of that stuff is kind of what fueled this podcast, when I started it 150 plus episodes ago, is I got so sick of all of this bad information and, people not having a place where they can get the right answers from somebody who knows what they're doing, right? And if you think, the average loan officer knows what they're doing, they don't, okay? And I've shared this in episodes past. When I look at different, nationwide groups of loan officers, and I look at the questions that are being asked, first of all, your lender should not be going to Facebook to ask a question about, a client's situation, right? They should be looking up the answer themselves versus doing that. But I see these really, what I like to say, are dumb questions being asked on behalf of a client from a lender who, the client assumes knows what they're doing. I just recently had this, and one of the things I want to do with this podcast too is share more stories, right? Of, how these things I'm talking about actually apply in real life. So I just had a client who reached out to me yesterday, and she had met with somebody, the lender I know. I know the lender, super nice guy. The problem is the advice that he gave her was completely wrong and likely hurt her in the process of buying a house. So she's telling me she talked to this gentleman, and he went through and gave her some guidance on how to, get pre-approved for the mortgage. Well, the problem was the guidance he gave her was wrong. Okay. So if you have, let's just say, a collection or judgment that's on your credit report, okay, don't pay it. Okay. Did you hear me? Don't go pay that judgment or collection unless your loan officer has told you to and they know what they're doing. Okay. So like in this case, this client went through and she settled some collections and paid them and so on. Well, when she did that, she likely did some additional harm to her credit score, because what happens is the way the credit scoring model works, and you can check this out. We did a really nice podcast with Sam Parker from My Credit Guy back a few episodes ago. But it's one of the ones I really highly recommend you listen to. We spend a lot of time just talking about credit. But in that case, it actually can restart that clock in such a way that it not only cost her points on her credit report, but it likely hurt her chances of being able to get approved. So, you really need to make sure that you're working with people who know what they're doing and they have a track record. Well, how do you again vet people? Look at the reviews, look at recommendations. Is your lender, somebody who knows what they're doing? Or again, just make it easy and come right to me, okay? I've done, this is episode number 151 episodes of this podcast. This is a labor of love for me, right? I don't make money on this. If you notice, there's not commercials. I'm not monetizing this. I'm not selling it. I'm not putting it behind some kind of paywall or anything like that. I'm just putting this information out there for free, right? And there are many of you who have listened and who have benefited from this podcast in some way, shape, or form. So I'm glad to know that that's the case. But I put this out there. The biggest reward I get is the opportunity to be able to have you as a client, right? Like that is the highest and biggest reward I get from this podcast. And of course the other benefit is knowing that, even if you didn't work with us, you hopefully were at least a little more educated about this process, and that somewhere in this massive thing that we call the internet, there is a bunch of mortgage information and content that is actually correct. It's actually right. It's actually something you can bank on, and you know that it's good. And if somebody would love to challenge me in regards to some of my answers or some of my feedback on the podcast, I would love to debate them. I've done this a long time. I know what I'm doing, and anybody who's in this industry that's listened to this podcast knows I know what I'm doing. So, I take a lot of pride in being an expert at what we do for the benefit of our clients. It gives us the opportunity to be able to be that solid source of information that you can bank on. So don't just take everything that you see on the internet as face value, okay? I don't care if you're getting it from the Quicken Loans website, or you're getting it from, Lending Tree, or you're getting it from Bankrate or anything like that, Nerd Wallet, Credit Karma, right? So, let's talk about Credit Karma real quick, okay? We talked about the Credit Karma credit score not being the same as your mortgage score. So if your Credit Karma's credit score is 750, you can expect that in most cases your mortgage credit score is going to be lower, and in some cases it can be significantly lower than that 750. Okay, that's one thing. Okay. The second part of that is, we talked about how all of these websites, oftentimes are really nothing more than a fancy lead generation website. Okay, well, I got news for you. That's what Credit Karma is too, right? You think they're going to give you your credit score for free, for nothing? No, the reason they do that is because as you look at the bottom of the application, it's like, hey, sign up for this credit card. Hey, sign up for this mortgage or this car loan. Or it is nothing more than Credit Karma, if you will, going through and generating you as a lead that they can sell to somebody, right? They turn around and sell those mortgage leads. They sell those credit card leads. They sell those auto leads to somebody, or leads to someone. That is nothing more. All you're doing is just giving up your data so that they can turn around and resell you to whoever the highest bidder is. Not the most competent, not necessarily the best deal, but whoever is willing to pay the most for that lead, that's who they sell you to, right? So as you're out looking and you're, sharing your information and you're thinking that you're getting legitimate offers and you're looking at, multiple offers from multiple lenders, you're just looking at multiple offers from people who are looking to try to buy that business, right? Now, normally if somebody's going through and buying those leads or buying that business, it's because they can't generate that business any other way, meaning that they don't have enough knowledge or enough experience or enough expertise in the marketplace where organically clients come to them, right? I have never paid for leads through Credit Karma or anything like that. We have done some co-marketing with agents on Zillow that, we have done, but we don't buy leads from clients. We don't, or leads from those sources, mortgage leads or anything like that. We generate our own leads. The majority of my clients are clients that I've done loans for multiple times over the course of the last 29 years, and they're people who have found us through the internet, in whether it's this podcast or some way, shape, or form, whether it's our YouTube channel or Facebook group or anything like that. There are multiple people that have found us those ways, and that's really where we get the heart of our business, is we just earn it the good old-fashioned way. So I take a lot of pride in that. So don't believe everything you're told, right? Don't believe everything that's on the internet. You can, but that's not necessarily the wisest advice you'd want to live by. Okay. Hey, my name is Dan Morales, America's Mortgage Man. My NMLS number is 709729. You can find me online at danmorales.com. That's DANMORALEZ.com. Phone number is 616-931-4629. And of course, North Point Bank is an equal housing lender.